In my work, I like to set up tensions of oppositions. And one of them is to make something that feels very material and tactile, but at the same time wants to disappear or isn't there all the time. I work with translucent and reflective materials and with light. I work with epoxy resin or tissue paper or translucent porcelain. My work is abstract. In some sense, everyone is between dimensions, in between 2-dimension and 3-dimension. There's what we see, which is a mechanical process. Our eyeballs process light. But we filter everything we see with our knowledge and our naming of things and our association of things. So I like to have something that it creates an illusion of a space but isn't quite a space, or hints at a picture of something but isn't literally that thing. So there's a place for your imagination. And even a mirror should become a place for whoever's looking at it to enter into that space in their imagination, sort of a Alice in Wonderland other world. Not everyone gets the imaginary space aspect of my work, but it's really important to me. Working with light or something translucent means that where the light is in relation to this object is going to change the way it looks. As the light changes in the room, it's going to change. And so it's sort of like containing light, containing change with an object, which is an interesting paradox to me. But the other thing about translucency that's important to me is that it implies temporality. So I like my work to express how fragile life is or how fragile our own existence is. For me, the meaning has to do with our mortality and the changeability of things. My background is in ceramics. So I was immediately drawn to porcelain because of its capacity for translucency, which is just so beautiful to me. I love working with clay. Of all the materials I work with, it's my favorite. A lot of people with my materials, they do want to touch and see what it is, and I always do when I'm in museums. Sometimes it's hard for me to, keep my hands off of things. People are really thrilled when they have permission to touch art. It really brings them into contact with the work directly, literally, and that's exciting to me. I want to activate that relationship. In my process, I spend all this time with my notebooks thinking and writing and drawing ideas, but then there's this other part that has nothing to do with that really actually knows what to do. It's the intuition, I guess. And getting those two things together is the key, because I can't make anything good without both of them. And so I'll try to define that and try to understand it with writing. And then I'll start just drawing a lot of ideas of, well, how could I take that idea and extend it and go in this direction or that direction or this direction? At the same time, I'm also working on testing. Like, let's say I want to work with tissue paper. What are the different things I can apply to the tissue paper to give it more material richness? I think that tendency could probably be from having come from ceramics, where people do a lot of test tiles on glazes. And it's just the delight of what if I do this, then what? Gradually, I'll feel kind of in my gut, yes, this one is right, and these materials are great, and then it can start to come together in stages. For example, on this project now, these hanging book ideas, these are some prototypes for some larger, like door-size, body-size pieces. They have two different sides, and I want to create a feeling of moving through the piece and into the inside of the piece, and yet still have it be kind of insubstantial from the side. And all these very subtle shifts in surface. People who walk up to a blank canvas and start making a painting, that would be terrifying. I have to sneak up on everything I do and have a lot to work with and see what's there before I really make a commitment to a real thing. Then once I make the commitment, then it's a pleasure to just make and see how it comes together. I spent my first 8 years in Providence, actually. My mother was a RISD student. She graduated and we stuck around here until she went off to graduate school. But she always made sure that I had a place to work with light and materials, and I just spent a lot of time making stuff. Getting very focused into this interior world and this imaginary world and working with things that are tiny and delicate. So I think those things made me stay in this kind of internal state with my work and often work with small scale and up close sorts of things. I moved all over the place in my childhood, in college, studying ceramics at Kansas City Art Institute. And then my husband went to graduate school, and then I went to graduate school. And when it was finally looking like we were done with all that, we decided to come back to Providence, because for me, Providence was the closest thing that I felt to a home. Early this year, I had a show in San Francisco. I had to ship a lot of large, heavy art, and that was a bit of an ordeal. I came back from that with this idea that I really should work with paper because it's light, it's less expensive, it's more portable, I could ship it. I discovered this Japanese paper called gampi. What's exciting to me about it is that the gampi is so insubstantial that just the shape of white paint will look like an object almost. That's going to be a whole series of smaller works. And then I have one more project that I'm very excited about. It's working with shallow boxes of plexiglass on the wall, attaching sections of translucent color to that or reflectivity so that it bounces the color onto the walls. So the wall and what's hitting it is as much a part of the piece as the object itself. You have to make a place for your work, and you have to make time for your work. And if you really care about what you're doing, you will just keep doing those two things. And eventually you'll get to where you feel like, yes, I now have work that's steadily coming from me at all times. Those are the basic things. You just have to have this faith that if you just come into the studio every day and keep doing whatever it is you can, eventually those things will start to gel, and then you'll find an idea that has the potential for those things I want, all those things, and then it'll just start to roll and build up speed, and that's when it's really fun.